everyone, and welcome to the Heron Heads podcast, your first stop for all things Inter Miami. Uh, I'm joined today by you, the Inter Miami fan. Jose, Dave, and Chris are at the Inter Miami versus Cavalier FC match, which is currently in not extra time, injury time, stoppage time. But I figured I'd jump on and we could discuss the game. It has been more of a fight than I would have anticipated, or that I did anticipate. I actually was the most brazen in our pre-game or preview stream. But nonetheless, Inter are currently winning 2-0 with about 4 minutes left in stoppage time. But I guess I'll take a moment real quick to thank our Chief Heron Heads, Chow and Madi V. Thank you so much for continued generous support. And if you'd like to support us on Patreon, join our Discord server, check out the merch store. Those links will all be in the description wherever you are listening. And we appreciate, as always, your consideration. A very easy way to help us out is also to hit the like and subscribe. Don't know if I already mentioned that, but if I haven't, please do so. If I did already mention it, still please do so. So this match has been prototypical. We overlooked the opponent and sort of just figured that we would score because we're better on paper. And it was kind of the big fear heading into this match was the hope that we wouldn't take this opposition too lightly. We were favored by the spread was actually 3.5 goals, which is crazy. I thought we were going to cover that because realistically, our players have looked really good. The match against Houston, we looked great even without Messi. And tonight it's been too lax. It's been too sloppy. Tony in the chat mentions, does Miami even know how to pass the ball? A question that I think we can all ask ourselves while watching this match. Do we know how to pass the ball? Do we want to pass the ball and move the ball forward? Alfonso's come on as a substitute, been really bad, really poor. And just in general, this is perfect by Tony. No energy. And it's not just the Jamaican team Cavalier, who made a great showing of himself, by the way. It's not just them bringing the energy, so by comparison, Inter Miami look bad and sloppy. It is Inter Miami genuinely have been acting this match as if the goal was just going to magically happen because they simply deserve it just by the names on the back of their kits. They need to remember that anything less than further than we got last year in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, anything less than that is an abject failure. This team is better than last year's team. And given the route that has made itself available to Inter Miami to advance further in this competition, they really have no excuse to not surpass their end point from last season. So tonight was like pulling teeth. Dave, who's at the game, says it best. This match was like pulling teeth, and it absolutely was. Cavalier FC score right before halftime whistle. It was reviewed, but and the goal was disallowed. But man, if you look at the first half, Cavalier had the best chance, the second best chance, the third best chance, and the fourth best chance. I'm pretty sure, I can double check the stats as soon as this match ends. I'm pretty sure Inter Miami did not have a shot on goal in the first half. And more so, I believe Inter Miami's first shot on target was the Tadeo Allende goal, which is, we cannot go 60 plus minutes without a shot on target. It's not going to work. A better opposition, a higher level opposition is going to tear us apart if we play like this. Lazy, lethargic, slow, sloppy, it is not good enough. And Mascherano really needs to look at himself and look at his players and say, guys, this level is not good enough. The match has just ended. Inter Miami do win 2-0. It's final. And we have to be thankful that we won and that we won by 2. No away goals is very beneficial in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Yeah, a lot of frustrated and upset fans. And I agree with all of you. I think we acted like if we own the world, and we don't. It's another win for Mascherano. His undefeated streak continues with Inter Miami. But questions need to be asked as to why we looked the way we looked, because this simply, it wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough. It's great that we won. I don't want to, poo-poo that too much, but we need to be better. We simply need to be better if we intend on achieving the heights that I think we all think this club can achieve. But tonight simply was not good enough. Dave says that the difference in energy was so stark because it felt like Cavalier came out with their heads on fire. And I couldn't agree more. Cavalier came out running with the intention of pulling the upset, with the intention of doing something. And Inter Miami, again, like I'm probably going to repeat this many times over tonight, given that this is, I think, our first solo show. I'm trying to fill out all the space here without getting too redundant. But we came out thinking that the result was just going to happen naturally. Northern Thai Garden Guy asks, what was the reason for sitting Leo? If you ask the club, they're going to say that he's day-to-day and that they're doing load management, which is a load of baloney. And that's the same story that they tell for everyone. They've said that Drake Calendar is day-to-day. They said when Fafa Pico got hurt, that he's day-to-day, even though it was very obviously a hamstring injury that typically takes at least 4 weeks to heal well. Yeah, I don't know the answer to the reason for sitting Leo. It was you can sort of guess and estimate what is going on with him, but no one knows, right? Because the club is so tight-lipped. The competitive committees don't require the club to be more forthright than what they're being. So it's very hard to say, oh, he's hurt, he's dealing with something. We simply don't know. Is it a load management thing? I would assume, from my perspective, that if he's dealing with something, the club and maybe Messi's team, and I'm using like that term loosely as his brand, his personal brand, right? Probably are prioritizing the match in Jamaica over tonight's match. So if he were to be rested for one of the two, tonight was the one he would be rested for. It gives him additional time to heal from whatever's nagging him. We saw him come off against Kansas City, I believe it was, in the second leg of the last round of the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and immediately go back to the locker room. I think you could see him using the massage gun, but we don't know, right? It's all speculation. The club doesn't have to release more information, and there's a lot of confusion and mystery shrouding something that the club is then using to raise the value of their tickets. And tonight, the ticket prices were very affordable and very low. And we said in the preview that tonight's a good night to go because we all thought Messi was going to play. All the signs were pointing towards Messi playing. So let me go through the chat here and answer a couple questions. I know you guys have been posting, and I appreciate it. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us, or with me, I guess. And let me get to some of these questions here in the chat, or I guess just comments in general. Agustin says the most frustrating thing is to acknowledge Messi's aging like every other mortal, and he can't stay fit for long at all. Yeah, listen, and he's not aging like everyone else, right? Because even at his age, he's doing things that really very few, if any other people in the world can do. So he's aging and his body is failing him when at other points in his career it wouldn't. But it's very obvious that when he plays, he still is at a very high level that, I mean, again, very few players in the world, even now, can reach on their best days. Messi saving himself for playing versus Uruguay and Brazil, possibly. And that's the thing. Like we just don't know. We don't know how much Messi's prioritizing international play this early in the season for Inter Miami. Is that maybe taking a back seat? We don't know. We don't know, what the load management is meant to be looking like. We don't know if he has a nagging injury. There's just not enough transparency to really know or to make a definite statement on that, right? They thought it was an easy game. Leo sits out. Yeah, that factors in too, right? Like maybe Mascherano played into that this game should have been won handily. Jose wants to know your thoughts on the disallowed goal. It was offside. They played bad. Falcon injury is very bad too. I saw him go down. I'll admit I was a little busy, so I missed parts, but I did see him go down. Yeah. And my favorite part of this whole game was watching Maxi carry the Cavalier player who had jumped on his back. He is very endearing, and it's very obvious by his both the level of his play and then just little moments like that where some personality comes out. And I thought Frey in the first half was pretty poor in his positioning, and he hung Maxi Falcon out to dry very often. A number of occasions where Frey sort of bailed on these balls that were being hit to the flanks, or to the left flank, I guess you would say, where Frey should have been. But he got caught out of position a number of times, and that's something that we've said often about Chelo. But Frey got caught out of position a lot of times. Again, probably underestimating the opposition. And then was like, okay, Maxi, go cover not just your area, but cover the gap that I'm leaving in behind on the flank. And luckily, oftentimes the ball just rolled, safely out of bounds. But on a handful of chances, Cavalier were able to make something happen. And lucky for Inter Miami, nothing came from it. But there was the early opportunity on the cross that the Cavalier player hit wide. There was the shot from the right side of the box that almost went in. I guess it would have been an own goal, but it bounced off the post and then it was cleared off. But a number of these high danger opportunities came from, I gotta say, like really just lax defense, really just laziness, man. Lazy. Falcon took a knee to the thigh. That could be anything, right? That could be a contusion, and it could be a couple weeks, or hopefully not, but it could be something more serious. But we hope to see him soon. What did you guys think of David Martinez tonight? It's the first match that we've seen him in months, it feels like. So how do you guys think he did? I thought, again, I just thought everything lacked urgency. It lacked impetus, right? So it's hard to really assess almost anyone, except for, I know Dave called out Velasco and Tadeo. And yeah, they continue to be the bright spots, which is great because they're bringing the offense, right? Like the offense is flowing through them. So you want to see them being the bright spots. Allende, Segovia and Allende both are just very high level players, and Allende's size causes issues. He has good drive, a good motor to get forward. He has good ability. I know he hit one shot. I can't recall if it was on like a half volley, but he hit a shot like way wide or high from a similar position to his goal in the Houston match. But I mean, the first goal itself came off a header that he hit, if I'm not mistaken. Bounced off the crossbar. Suarez keeps it in play. And then Allende slotted it home after jostled around the box a little bit. He was pretty wide open around the penalty spot. But Allende was very bright. Segovia, I love the positions he was taking up. He was really pushing play. Yeah, the only players that impressed were Segovia, Allende, and Falcon. 3 new players, which is, again, like it's very negative, right? Like it's very bad that those are the players, because you would expect these players that have been around for a while to come up and say, "Hey, we can't drop the form, we can't drop our level of play just because Cavaliers." To most people, let's be honest, to most people, an unknown, right? You couldn't name a single Cavalier player if someone asked you on the street before today and probably after today. And that's something I don't mean that as disrespectfully as it may have come off, but if you asked someone in Europe the same thing of MLS teams, that would be the reaction. But it's just the tiers of competition and how much exposure these teams get. You can't play down to your opposition. And that was a huge fear coming into this match. And it played out. It almost burned Inter Miami. Luckily, it didn't. Inter Miami are winners 2-0. And we play again next week in Kingston. We'll see if Messi plays. But he let's say he doesn't. Right? Let's say he doesn't play next week. The team has to be better. Because if Jamaica came out tonight, if Cavalier came out tonight with their heads on fire, they're only going to be more emboldened come next week. Not only will they be pumped playing in their national stadium, right? They're not playing in their normal 3,000 seat stadium. They're playing in the national stadium of Jamaica in Kingston. And they have nothing to lose. Being down 2-0, nothing to lose, playing in front of a huge crowd of people that will be so pumped to see their team playing against Messi. And that's if Messi plays. But if he doesn't play, I feel like it will be even more so behind the players of Cavalier. And Inter Miami, if they play like they play tonight, anything can happen. Anything can happen. Did I see the reaction of Messi during the game? Yeah, I mean, they showed Messi often, right? It just feels like after like the 5th time they showed him, he's almost like embarrassed that they keep showing him. But yeah, man, it's great to see him there. You wish the club was able to be more transparent, to give more information and to give more insight onto what it is that's actually going on with Messi. Is it load management? Is it an injury? Is it something else? Did he just wake up and was like, I don't feel like going tonight? I doubt he would say that. But any sort of transparency would be better than what we're getting, which is just speculating, right? I really wish it was somewhat required to be more forthright about the information. Messi should play. It would be a bad look if he doesn't. I totally agree, which is why I said earlier, if he were to play today or next week, the club, Messi's team, maybe even Messi himself are prioritizing next week's match in a place that he has been once, has not played competitively there. It would behoove him to play next week to further cement himself in the hearts of Jamaica, right? Or Jamaicans. Because, man, like, it's a show, right? Like, it's a show when Messi comes to town. It's a show, right? They want the spectacle of Messi in Jamaica. Exactly. 1 sec. Water break over here, you know? You don't want to give away valuable info to your opponent by your best player? To an extent, yes. But let me phrase it a different way. Okay, don't let's say we don't have to say it right now, but in post game, we all know Mascherano is going to get bombarded with questions about Messi. What if right now you say, okay, it was load management? Or what if you say he's dealing with a nagging injury? We tested it out in training. It didn't seem like he was fully fit. Messi himself said that he wasn't feeling right and he would rather be ready to go for Sunday's match. I think that's fair, but we're not going to get that. We're going to say at the bare minimum, we're going to get the load management excuse. At worst, we're going to get he's day to day. He's dealing with a couple things with the schedule congestion. We didn't feel like tonight was a good night to get him out there. We thought that the team we fielded would be more than capable of taking care of business, which they did. I think the issue is the MLS rules that don't need to report injuries to players. Yeah, but here's the thing. It's not just the MLS, right? Because tonight was a CONCACAF game. It was a CONCACAF competition game, right? So it's not just the MLS. They're not required. None of these competitions hold these teams accountable to be transparent about why the player's out, why the player doesn't need, or why the club isn't fielding it. Like, they don't have to answer that question. We'll cross the bridge of if he's leaving another day. We'll broach that topic another day. He's not going to up and leave in the middle of the season, you wouldn't think. The fact that you can exactly predict what they're going to say is why this is a circus. Yeah, but it's coach speak, right? Like, and that applies in so many sports, not just football here, not just MLS. It applies in basketball. In basketball, it's a rampant issue with all these players missing games left and right, and it devalues the competition, right? Like, it devalues the regular season when players don't play in the regular season and they prioritize the playoffs. You understand why they prioritize the playoffs, but it affects the league as a whole. It affects the value of the league, the value proposition for fans. You know, there's now a risk associated with buying tickets for Inter Miami matches because you're paying a premium, but the premium includes a risk trade-off that the player that you're paying most to see may not play, and you don't have a clear idea of why he may not play. And that is where it borders on the unfair and a little bit sleazy by the club. Miami definitely underestimated their opponents. They wanted to play at their pace, not adapt to Cavaliers' pace. 100%. And not just adapting to Cavalier style, but forcing Cavalier to play in a way that suited Miami better. They came out thinking, hey, we're Inter Miami. We're favored by 3.5 goals. Our odds are minus 4,000 to win this match. We are winning this match simply by stepping onto the pitch. And that simply is never the case. You could be playing against the San Marino national team, and that's not the case. You got to play. You have to play. And why are you playing down to your opponent when you have the ability to play at your high level and end the match by halftime? It's so silly, and it's a little bit subconscious, right? It's hard to sort of block out all the noise and block out the fact that on paper you may be a better club and that you're expected to win. It's very difficult to silence that and go out and do what you did on Sunday against Houston. All around the world, people go watch teams. This is a unique, weird spot where they go to see a player. I mean, totally true. Totally true. We're talking about a very unique situation where there's a transcendent player, a generational player, and you're right. It's not just affecting Inter Miami fans, but I mean, you see it with other clubs, right? You saw it Sunday with Houston when it was announced that Messi was not traveling to Houston. The Houston Dynamo released a statement that fans that had purchased tickets to the match against Inter Miami would be given vouchers for a free ticket to a future Houston Dynamo game as a way of the club saying, hey, sorry, we charged you a premium. We all thought Messi was going to be available. He's not. We feel like we need to make it up to you. And it's such a weird spot, right? Like on one hand, as a paying customer, you pay sort of knowing that there's an inherent risk that the players that you're paying to watch, and whether that's Messi or Messi and Suarez or Jordi Alba or whomever it is that you're paying for, right? If you want to go out and see Ustadi, your favorite player, or Maxi Falcon, more credit to you, right? But if you're paying that, you can argue that there's a risk that these players may not play, and that's completely out of your control. The frustrating part is that there's no clarity as to why they're missing these games. And if there's an injury or a perfectly reasonable reason why, it's just unbeknownst to you. Because at the end of the day, they're going to say, hey, he's day to day. It may be an injury, but it's not that serious, but maybe it is. You just don't know. Bad game, Bright is a starter, and Ben Krem is not a starter. Ben Krem's been interesting, right? Like, he had such a good run of form 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, when the Leagues Cup run with Messi when he first got here, and it really seemed like he was on such a fast track to success, and then he's never quite like hit those highs as consistently as he did in that run. But yeah, Ben Krem, he's kind of in the same boat as Redondo, where you know the talent's there, and it almost seems like they haven't quite found their spot on the pitch, whether that's a tactical thing or a comfort thing for the player themselves. They're trying to do too much or haven't really gelled with the players around them. But yeah, Bright kind of suits what the team is good at better than Ben Krem, right? Like, if Bright's winning the ball back in midfield, can play it well with Segovia. We saw, I keep referring to the Houston match, but we saw it in the Houston match. Segovia and Bright collapse on a player in the midfield, take the ball away. Bright's able to take it up the pitch, pass wide to Suarez, who passes it back to Segovia, and it was like clockwork. It was beautiful. Ben Krem, not as good as a defensive player as Bright, obviously, and sometimes just tries to do too much on offense, right? He doesn't let the game come to him. Sometimes he tries to bring the game to the opposition, and it leads to a lot of lost possession, a lot of dribbles that he loses out on, and he tries to be sometimes a little too sly with his passing, right? Instead of just playing the simple balls, sometimes he gets a little too complex and sort of trips himself up. This happens. I think Chelsea, well, yeah. Chelsea, the ultimate, like, play down to their opposition. Yeah, I think there are plenty of people that are mad about Messi sitting out. I don't think tonight's a great point of reference for this because the tickets weren't outrageous. They were extremely affordable tonight. And that was mostly a byproduct of the opposition, not so much the club knowing that Messi wasn't going to play. I mean, the tickets were on sale well before we knew Messi was out. The third party sites had them on sale well before we knew Messi was out. So there are moments that can be just a kind of an unfortunate set of events. And yeah, tonight people probably expect to see Messi. Some people probably went to the game thinking, hey, this is going to be my best shot to be able to go to a match that I can afford, a match that I can take my kids to. And if he plays, like, this is what I can afford. I'm not going to normally shell out $150 to go see Messi because I simply can't afford it. That's too much of a luxury. So I think it's a tricky situation, man. So he's still waiting for Redondo to show up, but I know he's not his father, but I think he can give a lot more. Yeah, his ceiling is high. He's just finding. He's got to find his spots. He's got to play within himself a little bit better. He's had some nice box out at times, but still haven't seen that spark. Exactly. He's a big frame player. big frame, right? He's able to use his body well. It hasn't all clicked at the same time. Stadium wasn't full either, of course not. Look at the opposition. Look at when the match is, right? A Thursday night. Those are always harder to fill up the stadium. Now, if it was a marquee opposition, maybe we're talking about a different story, but yeah, I think there were a lot of factors going into the low prices, and even at the low prices, the stadium not being at capacity. The full team chemistry has not come together. They looked lost tonight. Yeah. And it can be two things or multiple things. It could be team chemistry. It can be a lack of care and a lack of respect for the opposition, as I've said a number of times tonight. And this was the product that you get when those things combine. It is a lazy looking team that thinks that they're just owed a result instead of having to earn the result. And it worked out, but I think there will be noise around this match and a general sense of that not being good enough to be able to compete at a high level, especially in this competition that has a lot of weight to it. As far as all the competitions that we're competing for winning, I think this one's pretty high up on the priority list. Yeah, Redondo has his moments. The issue that no one stole the show, it's not even that. They looked at times like the less dangerous team. Cavalier looks like they were actually trying things. And Inter Miami was sort of waiting for Cavalier to make an egregious mistake. And they were, to their credit, Cavalier was doing a very good job sitting back, committing to their defensive responsibilities. And when they had the opportunity, would hit Inter Miami on a break because the Inter Miami players would get out of position, take themselves out of position, assuming that they were not going to be made to pay. And a number of times, they came very close to paying. Still think Messi will play in Jamaica and then save himself for the 21st and 25th of March versus Uruguay and Brazil. I don't disagree. I think playing in Jamaica is of importance and of value to Messi. Obviously, his international duty is of importance and value to him. So I don't disagree with that statement. I think he does play in the matches in Jamaica and then also for the national team, even if it's just one of the two national team matches, although both are marquee matches, right? Argentina versus Uruguay and Brazil. Missing Gressel right now. I'm surprised Gressel didn't feature. I'm generally surprised at the lineup that was put out tonight. I thought we were going to rotate very heavily. And we sent out basically the same team we sent out against Houston, with the exception of David Martinez in for Noah Allen. But generally was the same team. We also had the news earlier today that Drake Callender was going to see a specialist. I thought he was going to feature in this match, but obviously that news changes things. I think Gressel's gone. It seems like it. Tonight would have been a good match to put him in, but he was nowhere to be seen. What's up with Suarez hitting the Cavalier goal? Hey, man, we don't question what Suarez does out on the pitch. Messi is better off playing in Jamaica than playing a random ass MLS game. Well, this was the first leg of that match that will be the return fixture that will be played in Jamaica. But if you're referring to maybe the Houston match, sure. Again, I think for his brand, it's of great importance for him to play in Jamaica. But, you'll hear from many Messi supporters that Messi wants to play, and if he was fit to play, he would play. So if that's the case, then maybe something is going on. But again, it's all speculation because there's no transparency on this. Gressel going to be traded since he was a Tata boy? Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look like Mascherano's going to give him even the opportunity to prove his worth. It just seems like he's going to sit on the end of the bench and wait for a suitor to come and give Inter Miami something worthwhile to give Gressel up for. So we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, I mean, there's so many players that just had performances that leave you questioning their place in this squad, right? Like, I mean, Suarez scored a goal at the end, but up to the point where he scored a goal, just quiet. You know, last match against Houston, he was quiet from a scoring perspective until late, but he was assisting, he was creating, he was playmaking. And one of the things that I really, this is difficult to avoid, but one of the things that I really hate that Suarez does at times is he drops in way too deep to support the passage of play. There were many times where the defense, and this may have just been early on, but a number of times when Cavalier was sitting in their low block, Inter Miami was sort of passing around, let's say around midfield, passing between the defenders, and Suarez would drop almost as far back as them to help pass around and open up space. But then he's by midfield, and with those legs, it takes him like 20 minutes just to get back up to the front. But there need to be different players that take up that role and take up that responsibility, and he needs to be responsible for facilitating play closer to the prongs of the attack, which he's part of, right? Like him, Segovia, Allende, those players need to be focused on facilitating play up in the attack in the final third. And when he drops deep, man, you're missing out on a key piece of that attack. And then there were a number of times that if he didn't get the pass in attack and the ball got turned over, you just knew you were in trouble because he wasn't gonna defend against the counterattack that was coming. Leg two is next week. Let me see. Let's see. They are playing. Just look up Inter Miami's schedule. Next Thursday, 1 week from today. So they play next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. In between now and then, we play against Charlotte at Chase Stadium in Fort Lauderdale Sunday at 4 p.m. But we play next Thursday in Jamaica. Are we going to that one as well? We'll put on the Heron Heads business card. MLS is a long season, so it's better for him to save his best for the CONCACAF Leagues Cup and the Club World Cup. Yes, but this wasn't MLS. This was CONCACAF Champions Cup. This was the first leg of a 2-leg fixture against Cavalier. I understand that he should play in Jamaica, but the argument that he should save himself for the other competitions is null because this was the other competition. So while I agree with this sentiment of you could miss a couple MLS matches here and there, if this is a load management thing, you should be load managing for these competitions that have a shorter route between where we stand today and where the actual acquisition of a trophy is. They already sold out. Yeah, they sold out the National Stadium in Kingston, Jamaica already, 35,000 seats. And hopefully it's not a Hong Kong incident where people paid lots of money and Messi didn't play. Messi will not play Charlotte. We'll see, right? Every day it seems like we hear opposing news bits about Messi's availability. He didn't play today because they underestimated this team so much. That I agree with. I think they grossly underestimated this team. And it's weird. We still won 2-0, which speaks to the quality difference. But we were lucky to win 2-0. He's definitely got an injury of some sort. That's why when he subbed out against Kansas City, he went straight to the locker room. Yeah, it could be. That's all we can say. Maybe. I don't think we'll ever know. Just like with last season. We never really knew. Until very late, we didn't really know. The Hong Kong incident, it does sound like a spy thriller movie with lots of mystery to it. Maybe this will be the Kingston incident. But yeah, I feel like I've talked in circles enough tonight, so I won't bore you guys more. Sunday's the next match against Charlotte. Again, that match is at 4 p.m. Eastern time. At home, at Chase Stadium. I anticipate that will be a full sellout crowd. And yeah, Inter Miami survive Cavalier 2-0 at home. And for this competition, the next leg will be next Thursday. Inter Miami lead 2-0, which is very good. They didn't allow an away goal, which is good. Ustadi clean sheet. We love that. But until Sunday, thanks for tuning into the Heron Heads podcast. Your first stop for all things Inter Miami. Please hit a like and subscribe if you haven't already on the channel. Greatly helps. If you guys are listening on Spotify, leave us a review. Leave us a 5-star rating. Hugely helpful. And yeah, I don't know if we'll go live immediately after the game on Sunday because it's a little bit earlier of a match. So we may be live in the evening to talk about everything that happened. But until then, I hope you all have a wonderful end to your week, a great start to your weekend, and we'll see you after Inter Miami's match against Charlotte on Sunday. So have a good night, guys. We'll see you on the next one.